I'd like to welcome everybody. Hello. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Belgium Village Board meeting, 7 o'clock, Monday, March 14th, 2022. Could we all please silence our cell phones or turn them off? A roll call of officers.
We have Keith Anzio, Roseanne, Guy, Don Gotcher, Sarah Heisler, Victor Mercado, Rose Sowers, and Dan Wolf present.
Open meeting law compliance check.
Yes, we are compliant.
We all please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go to public input. Anyone have anything to say? Danny?
I just got one thing from the fire department. I don't know if you got what Julie shared you. I shared to Julie about our shared study program. They're going to be meeting with the county board, the public safety committee tomorrow morning, and then Wednesday, the full board, and then it'll go for action in April. But it's something that you guys should look at closely because we need to make some decisions, you know, in the future if we want to go along with the study and everything. So, and I think we should go along with the study because we don't know how everything is to turn out here in 3 to 5 years. So,
Can you highlight that study a little bit?
well, they want to have right now we're proposing to a paramedic program countywide. They have some American Fund relief money. We're asking for $5 million for paramedics, 2 paramedics, 6 different stations, and they would be able to respond right off the bat. We would still have our rescue squad paged out and everything. It's just that we know that somebody is coming, otherwise, you know, we don't. Sometimes we don't know if paramedics are coming and stuff like that. So, and it's something that we got to because it's only money allotted for 30 months. So after 30 months, you know, if the county goes with this, somehow it's going to have to get funded. So if they're going to ask municipalities to help in and stuff like that. So, but I say you guys going to take a hard look at it.
Yeah, you know, if that's 30 months, are they locked in for that time with paramedics?
Yeah, the full, I would think so.
I'm just saying that they come, you know, 8 months and leave. I'm just curious if that.
I think that money is guaranteed for, I mean, we had it all figured out. The proposal shows that there's enough money there for 30 months. And after that, you know, they got to make some decisions because.
Do they have 1 or 2 paramedics in Fredonia for us?
Yep. I mean, if you look at the report, the proposal, I think it shows where the paramedics would be staffed. I mean, it's 18 full-time paramedics that station, you know, spaced out with vacation time and stuff like that. So.
Anybody got anything else to say? If not, we'll move on to the Belgium Area Chamber of Commerce report.
Ready? Just a few things. Tomorrow is the job fair here in Belgium High School. So we have about 30 businesses that will be represented there tomorrow morning. And next up is our brew and chew, and that's coming up Saturday, April 30th. Tickets are on sale for that, and they're selling very quickly. So if you would like one, you can get them here in the village. Plus Group Wealth Advisors for Washington State Bank, Bugler Farms, and online. So that's coming up, and as far as the Centennial, the next thing is going to be another 100 Minutes of Memories night, and that is going to be in May, and that will be a very refreshing. So you can look for information on that coming soon. Any questions? That is all.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we can jump down to the consent agenda items. So we can go past that too. We'll go into unfinished business.
You need to approve our minutes.
Okay. Make a motion, we accept the agenda items?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'll move on to the unfinished business. 9A, discuss and approve Public Works Committee recommendation to approve ordinance number 02-22 and registration form to allow the operation of golf carts in the village, tabled from February village board meeting. Okay. You guys all read the ordinance?
And you read the memo I put together on the driver's license issue?
So how does that actually work, Jerry?
Well, the question arose last month when we had the discussion about could we modify the ordinance I had drafted that said you have to have a driver's license to perhaps allow certain people not to have a driver's license. And I said, as far as I knew, maybe we could do that. I didn't look into it prior to that. Then I saw that the Public Works Committee had recommended no driver's license. That's when I thought I'd better research state law to make sure we can do that, something similar to it. And I discovered when you read the statutes, there's nothing in the golf cart section about driver's license at all. But when you read the driver's license section of the state statutes, as I quoted in here, and I think you all read, you have to have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on a public street. And it defines motor vehicle, which would clearly include a golf cart. Now, oddly enough, they specifically exempt UTVs and ATVs. I attribute that they have a good lobby. Okay, they got them out. You could, if you had a good lobby, you could probably get golf carts out. But again, we can't go against state law. State law says if you're going to operate a motor vehicle on a public street, you have to have a driver's license. I looked at a lot of ordinances from around the state, golf cart ordinances, and with one exception, the Julie found every one of them requires a driver's license in the ordinance. I also looked at several websites for golf cart associations that promote the use of golf carts on public streets, and they have a list of applicable state laws for all the different states, and every one of them says Wisconsin, you have to have a driver's license. So I think my interpretation is correct, that that's what we have to do. So we can't take it out, nor can we exempt people. There is a state statute, which I noted in here, that allows people without driver's licenses to operate certain kinds of vehicles, very limited. But we're not in a position, sadly, we'd like to accommodate the couple of people that have been mentioned. I just don't see any way to do it right now. So if you want to do the ordinance, this is, in my view, how it has to be.
Didn't you have something in there about a special circumstances or something?
Yeah, that's the last thing I had talked about, Pete. But again, that only allows people to operate motor bicycles or mopeds.
What's a specially designed vehicle having a maximum speed of 35 miles an hour then? That doesn't sound very specific. It's the footnote on your
Yeah,
conclusion.
since I was just rereading.
Could that be a way around?
But I don't know how you can get, to be honest with you, how you
Well,
can
I
fit a
know
golf
actually,
cart into a special.
sorry, Victor, if interrupting. It does talk in there about specially designed vehicles, and that's no way it's a golf cart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, I mean, golf carts are golf carts. I don't know if you can define it as a special design vehicle.
Yeah.
So.
There's no way we can get this to go on.
To do what you wanted to do to accommodate the people. No, I just don't see it. The law, state law says you have to have a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle on a public road. There are certain exceptions to that, but the municipalities are not authorized to give exemptions to driver's license requirements. If that were the case, then you could, every municipality be a free-for-all as to who got exempted from state law.
Well, I'll admit, I don't know the particulars of the individuals that we were hoping to accommodate. Plus, I also don't know the
full extent of the driver's licensing laws in Wisconsin, but is there a way to approach it via the license itself? In other words, could there be an amended driver's license for individuals fitting these circumstances?
The state issues driver's license.
Right.
We don't. Okay.
No,
And
I
we-
know that,
and
but I'm
we
just,
cannot-
I'm trying to find an out. for
I
these
understand that.
individuals.
I looked, trust me. There's no way that we have authority to do that. Okay, like driver's licenses come from the state of Wisconsin.
But should a person apply for a license with certain, again, I don't know anything about the licensing, and let's just say they were granted a particular license for their situation, would it then be legal for us to accommodate them with allowing them to drive golf cart?
Well, it's a lot of hypotheticals, I guess. I think the state law would have to say that, okay, that this person can get this special driver's license to operate this kind of vehicle, and that's what the law now allows. It's a special driver's license that allows them to operate mopeds and motor bicycles and or specially designed vehicles, which, as I said, I looked at what that is. It's definitely not a golf cart.
Well, you can't say I didn't go down fighting.
And trust me, I looked, because I was curious about all this to see. I certainly sympathize with the gentleman Pete brought up originally, and Vicky mentioned somebody. It'd be nice if we could accommodate them, but we don't have that flexibility.
What does Campbell Sport get away with it?
I don't know.
They haven't been caught.
Just because you don't put in your ordinance that you have to have a driver's license, doesn't mean you don't have to have a driver's license. I mean, that's how I would interpret it. If the county, I don't, does Campbell Sport even have a police department? Okay, so somebody's driving down the road in Campbellsport in a golf cart and the county sheriff pulls them over. And they say the city or village ordinance doesn't require me to have one. I don't think he's gonna get a lot of sympathy from the county sheriff because state law does require it.
State law will prohibit play vehicles in the street unless there's an ordinance on that. That would be considered a play vehicle on the street. Again, public roads.
Ultimately, the law does allow UTV use without a driver's license, so there is an option for people who are looking for a vehicle that doesn't have a driver's license. It's not a great option when you have to spend a lot more money, but it is an option.
As I said, I mean, this is, I think, probably accurate that those organizations, ATV, UTV, haven't been lobbied. Okay, they got a legislator to exempt these vehicles from state law. There's nothing to say that the same couldn't be accomplished with golf carts, but someone's gonna have to take the lead on that.
So I guess my understanding is it's our golf cart. It's my understanding that it's okay to do ATV, which is more dangerous than a golf cart, because more damage than a golf cart could possibly do. But again, like you're saying, it's whoever paid them off to pass those laws. You know that.
Take them off is pretty harsh.
You can you know the game.
That's what lobbying is. Okay.
That's exactly lobbying being paid off.
So, and what is the age on an ATV, UTV?
12, I think, right?
But they have to
They have to have an adult.
Anybody born after 1989 has to have a safety class with a permit. So
And they have to have an adult next to them.
Until they're 16.
Yes,
So
until they're
16
16.
drive
Until they're
without an
adults.
adult. Right, they have safety.
So I can go out and buy a more dangerous vehicle for my son to drive, and that'll be okay.
Yes, you
Yeah.
can.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Yep.
There are a lot of laws that don't necessarily make sense.
I agree, this is our system nowadays.
Yeah.
We do stupid things. We should get a new vehicle.
That sounds like a win-win.
Hey, Zach, we're going one week. You take it.
okay, then I'll move on to the
Well, do you want to take action on the ordinance as it's
Do
drafted?
something.
Can you still not leave it open and do more research on it yet, or?
We have.
Well, I don't know what more research there is to do. And if I can-
I know this, you know, Wisconsin is different than most states. I lived in Arizona for a while too. Sun City is a retirement home area. If you hit a golf cart, you're going to jail. Typically, those people get golf carts because they lose their driver's license because of their age. And stuff. That's what's funny about it. It's, you know, it's still so new here in Wisconsin. You know, as we slowly get into electrical vehicles and stuff like that, it'll happen, but at that point in time, I'll be old and dead. You know, but it's just a very strange, doesn't make a whole lot of sense that I can take a more dangerous vehicle, and that's okay. But a golf cart doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
That's your legislatures.
It's true.
Have you only had one
Well,
brother?
if I got a
laws
driver's
that-
license, then you wouldn't need a golf cart.
Just that one time,
Yeah. And
That's
that was
it.
on a holiday, it was 4th of July.
and it was 4th of July, and it was the state patrol,
Yeah,
not
and he
the
had it.
deputies.
No.
Okay. Has a county deputy ever seen you on it? And a few, and what happened?
Nothing happens.
I mean, obviously, okay.
There are other people who have golf
Right.
carts though, so I mean, I think.
I get it.
I think that you should at least consider the ordinance regardless.
Well, actually, that was gonna be my next question, was if there was anyone else impacted other than the special cases that we've noted, because otherwise, is there a need for the ordinance if it's not gonna benefit the people that it was meant to benefit? So, but you're saying
It
that
is
there
my
are
understanding
other,
there is at least one adult
There
family
were,
that has a golf cart.
attendees at the Public Works
okay.
Committee meeting that attended for that purpose.
I think if it becomes more common here too, you're gonna find out people that, if you just have to run, go somewhere, to the gas station, get soda or whatever, you know, versus getting a car, using a battery operated item. Especially as you're getting older. I mean, Dad used to take his grandpa to get, you know, soda at McDonald's and stuff like that. To get in a car and start that up and drive it over there seems pretty senseless. You know, there's gotta be, it's not a big town. There's gotta be a way of getting something in here. That just makes a whole lot more sense than saying I gotta, you know, have an ATV.
So for the time being, you wanna,
I would like to move to table for further discussion.
I'll second.
motions are made and seconded, table this for more discussion. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll move on to 9B. Approve resolution number 17-21, accepting improvements for New Luxembourg 3rd edition. Okay.
Well, you're losing half your audience.
Thank you.
Shows you how important golf carts are, right?
Are we okay in the letter of credit? Julie, again?
Maybe you want to just explain it.
Sure. This, I think you're answering Jerry's question, that clarification on the 3 different items has been made. Is that correct? I'll explain that to the dais here.
Yeah, there was an exchange of emails between you and Julie. I think she was questioning, you know, what was applicable and then how much coverage did we have? So that's what we want the board
So
to
a
hear.
history here for the board, last summer, we produced a letter of credit for what we believe were the open scope items, based on the punch list by the village's consultant engineer. The resultant of that, prior to the consultant engineer with our engineer, so we produced a letter of credit in the neighborhood of 50,000 or so that the village has in hand. After negotiations further, that got up to 85,000 to allow us to start construction of the homes. We've since addressed a number of items through the punch list process with the village engineer, and have come to a realization that we are increasing the letter of credit to about 165 total. Is that the total? No, we added 80 or so to it. And that's
160.
160. And that's a matter of timing. we've certainly done much more work from the punch list than was required to be covered with a letter of credit, but it is, I don't have time to go through a consultant and review it and kind of bar that down. So over the next couple of months, I'll be readjusting the letter of credit to be right size for the scope that's open for Jamie's review. So anyway, long story short, we will have one letter of credit once this is adopted for 162 in the hands of the village that got approved at Fort State Bank last week. We just need the paperwork to be in Julie's hand to be formal ownership on it. Is that fair? Good.
And that's more than enough to cover the remaining work, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. So to that end, what we're looking to do today is have the village adopt the road improvements as we continue out the letter of credit protected by, or as we continue out the punch list items protected by the letter of credit, so we can start closing on these homes that are out there. First one will be early April.
So this could be, if you choose to approve it, would be contingent upon the letter of credit
Yes.
being received.
Right. I forwarded communication to Julie that it's approved, but I think that it's to Julie's point, it'd be prudent for you guys to approve it contingent upon receipt of the actual paperwork.
Julie, do we need to introduce the resolution, or had it been priorly introduced?
Well, I think this has been modified, so I think we start over, and it's got a new number. So I'm going to introduction of whatever this was assigned in 1720. Well, you kept the number, though, right? Yeah, that's fine.
The same, so.
We still need to
Why
introduce.
don't you reintroduce it? How's that?
Okay, I'd like to introduce number 17-21, accepting improvements for New Luxembourg, 3rd edition.
I'll make a motion to accept 17-21 improvement resolution with contingency.
Of village receiving the letter of credit from.
Final revised
He
letter
said.
of credit.
See, that's my line. I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to new business then. Approved Plan Commission's recommendation to approve 2-lot certified survey map of property owned by Bill Janishek, parcel number 18-050-02-02-01 to create outlot 1, a 2.046 acre parcel. This is the property that's right alongside the pond?
Yeah, that's the property where the pond is gonna go.
Oh, okay.
I move to approve Plan Commission's recommendation to approve the 2-lot certified survey map of property owned by Bill Janishek. Do I have to say the whole number?
No.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10B, approved Park and Recreation Committee's recommendation to assign $522 for the Heritage Park dugouts completed in 2019 to park impact fees, and have village staff monitor collections of park impact fees to apply to eligible expenses, and recommend that a public facilities needs assessment be completed in the future. So is there money left over
So
from the dugouts?
this was brought up because we are very nearly to the limit of what we can spend our park impact fees on. When in reviewing that, I noted that we did have still an additional $522 that could be spent at Heritage Park. And since we spent money on the dugouts and that was an eligible expense, it only makes sense to apply this park impact fee to that expenditure and use those funds rather than refund them to homeowners. So that's the first part of that. The second part of that is to, after the shelter is built, we're going to have only about $4,000 yet left in eligible expenses at any of the parks. So we're getting really close to needing to wrap up this impact fee. So the motion is to have us monitor it as these houses come through. Once we get to that point where we're not gonna have any more expenditures, to let the board know so that you can end that impact fee. And then the third part is to do a new needs assessment to review possibly creating a new impact fee in the future. So those are the 3 parts to that motion.
Is there's at a certain point, are we gonna be able to be told what's going on with the park, with the shelter and stuff?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, Danny can bring you up to date on what's going on with that because the park committee did review the current plans, I believe.
Yeah, there were some plans drawn up and, for a shelter. Bathrooms, like attached to the existing refreshment stand in the park and build a new one. So the shelter is attached. We had them plans drawn up, an architect firm out of Grafton. Park and Rec committee, we met last month, went over them. We sat down with the architect again and we made some different changes on it, what the Park and Rec committee wanted, and it's back in his hands to get the drawings all done, then we can present to the board and go up with it.
Was there like a grant filed for this or
Well, it was, but unfortunately we got
We
turned
didn't
down.
get it.
no?
We have one other grant that we're going to be submitting yet this month. It is a more limited grant. It's the most the AARP has ever given to any community is $50,000 for their grant. So, you know, but if we can get something toward it, something is better than nothing. So, but that's not due until a little bit later this month. So we've begun working on that.
Do we have enough budgeted for the whole thing?
Well, I guess that's how depends how the bid come back,
That's how the
but
bids-
hopefully.
Hopefully we do, and if we can go with the project this year, we'd like to start at the end of August. Get part of the bathrooms done and stuff done before functions from 2022.
I believe that we have 450 in our capital plans for it, and in addition to that, we have 20-some thousand that we can use from impact fees toward it. And then if we get any grant money, that would be additional also.
So you waiting for that to come back from the architect before you put bids out?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll make a motion that we assign $522 for Heritage Park dugouts.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10C, approve Public Works recommendation to contract with Moss and Associates to complete the right-of-way acquisition services for the Storm Pond and Elevator Lane project. Yeah, we went over that at the Public Works meeting and seemed to be the best way to go.
There's a comparison of the 2 quotes, basically outlining the differences. And Moss and Associates is going to be considerably less, it appears. Just in that they do a different way, they approach it a little bit different than single source. Single source requires initial appraisals on every property. Moss and Associates does a sales study on them and only does appraisals if they're requested by the homeowner or if there's a problem with negotiations. So that right there is about an $11,000 difference between the 2 costs.
I move to approve Public Works recommendation to contract with Moss and Associates to complete the right-of-way acquisition services for the Storm Pond and Elevator Lane project.
So second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10D, approve Public Works recommendation to not impose a special assessment fee on the listed property owners for curb and gutter installation on Elevator Lane.
Any questions on that one? And basically what we ended up going through is looking at it and, you know, the total cost came up to what, 23,000? And even the village would have to come up with about 8,200 of that, no matter what. And so with that amount of difference and the fact that we are, at least at the time of the meeting, we were still negotiating for the purchase of the land. We didn't really want to hit the landowner with another special assessment in the middle of negotiations. So it was kind of decided at this point that we just not do the special assessment and go forward with that way.
Well, how many property owners are we talking about? Because it says owners plural. Is it just the one or?
No, there's multiple, but
Listed on that
Okay,
table?
yeah.
all of the properties that would have a special assessment are the same properties that we will be negotiating right away with, so.
Okay, that's a no-brainer then.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so I move to approve Public Works recommendation to not impose a special assessment fee on the listed property owners for curb and gutter installation on Elevator Lane.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10E, approve finance and personnel's recommendation to early payoff for TID developer bonds. Vicky, could you help explain?
Yeah, so we did budget for, to pay off, we were hoping to pay off as many of the bonds as possible this year. We are not able to pay them all off completely, but I did put together, a list of the ones that what we can afford to pay off. By doing this, we're gonna be saving somewhere in the range of about $45,000 on interest if we pay them off now instead of waiting until next year, when they would be due. So it is my recommendation, since we do have the funds available and they are not earning diddly squat on interest right now, that it is better to pay these off and save paying interest rather than trying to collect interest on money that isn't gonna earn any interest. And we will still have a remaining fund balance of approximately 165,000 at the end of the year, so it's not like we're draining ourselves. We will still have plenty of money for any needs that would come up.
I'll make a motion to approve finance and personnel's recommendation of early payoff for TID developer bonds.
Thank you, and I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10F, approve finance and personnel's recommendation that the village pay a portion of the 2021 utility project loan from the general fund.
So basically, a quick summary of what this is. The loan that we took out for the utility project this year, we did not end up spending all of it because we came in under budget. So the remaining $200-some thousand is going to be used toward this year's road and stormwater project. But that means general fund will be paying that portion of the loan. And since we did not budget any loan payments from general fund for this year, we do need to fund those payments. The payment comes to $43,000 this year. If we use our fund balance, I have the final draft number is that we have a fund balance of approximately $441,000. If we allocate fund balance for this loan payment, it will bring us to 28% of our operating budget, which is well above the 10 to 25% that's recommended. So basically, I'm just asking you to approve that we make that loan payment out of fund balance.
By doing that, that frees up some other money.
Well, no, we didn't budget for this payment at all out of general fund. So we have to pay this loan payment somehow or other. So, you know, I guess it's out of, either you assign it out of fund balance, or technically we could just leave it within the operating budget as an over budgeted expenditure, which is just gonna end up hitting our fund balance the same way next year. So it's kind of, you know, the same difference, just different way of wording it. I just, you know, usually, when we have fund balance available, we want to allocate it toward expenses that we need, rather than having our current year budget come in under budget or over budget rather. Well, exactly. We have to pay this loan payment somehow. It wasn't budgeted for, but we have to make the payment.
Okay, I move to approve finance and personnel's recommendation that the village pay a portion of the 2021 utility project loan from the general fund balance.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. NG, approve finance and personnel's recommendation to approve the revised short-term disability benefit as presented.
So over the last year or two, we've had a few instances where employees needed medical leave, and none of them asked for short-term disability, but in each case, I was a little bit concerned that our policy didn't clearly outline how they were supposed to be paid if they had recommended it. So I've just been kind of working on this over the time. A couple of things. The first issue here is our current policy requires written notice by the employee and approval by the village board. My concern with that is that it then goes on public record in a public meeting that an employee has to have medical leave, and I'm concerned that that could be a HIPAA violation of employee privacy. So I did run that by the league lawyers, and as any good lawyer, they refused to give me a clear answer. No, they said to talk to our lawyer, but the basic answer was, she said, well, I understand your concern and that I should talk to our lawyer, which I didn't do because I thought I would just run it by the committee. I think we can easily solve this by simply changing it from village board approval to village president approval, then it doesn't become public record, it's done privately, and HIPAA is protected. So that's the first change. The second change is I didn't feel that it was very clear, you know, it just broke down injury and illness. It didn't talk about things like hospitalizations or medical procedures such as a surgery, as far as when benefits would start on those kind of things. So I changed the wording to make it a little bit more clear. And then the third issue that I was concerned about is that the way our policy was written, the benefit has to be taken in full week increments. And it didn't allow for an employee who is allowed by their medical release to come back to work part-time. So by having a policy that doesn't allow an employee to come back to work part-time, it encourages the employees to stay off of work full-time until they're 100% required. That doesn't benefit the village if we have work that they can do on a limited basis. So I felt it's for the village's benefit to allow people to still have their disability benefit while they come back to work part-time. So it would reduce what the village pays out, but it also allows them to earn some money part-time if they are released by their doctor to come back part-time. So those are the three changes in this that the Finance and Personnel Committee approved.
Is this a new company that we're going through that these guys weren't covered with that before?
No, we actually self-fund our short-term disability, and that does bring up a point that I mentioned to the Finance and Personnel Committee. When we started doing this, I want to say it was in 2014 or something like that. I can't recall the exact circumstances, but I believe that our existing company was stopping doing short-term disability. We went out and got a bunch of quotes, and we were paying like $8,000 or $9,000 a year to give every employee $200 per week short-term disability benefit. And the board at that time decided to self-fund it. since that time, we now offer the employees 40% of their salary for short-term disability. They can also pay a premium of $10 per paycheck, which is $260 a year, to have that go up to 60% benefits. In the years since 2014, we have actually collected more money in premiums from the employees than what we've paid out in disability benefits. So going self-funded has been very beneficial to the village. We've saved a lot of money by doing so. So I do recommend we continue with our self-funding plan. I just think that there were some things that we needed to tweak a little bit.
Is there extra cost then by putting all this extra stuff in there?
No,
No?
no, it does not add any costs at all. It's more or less just clarifying for me, when I do payroll, I like to know that I'm doing everything legally and according to how it should be.
I move to approve Finance and Personnel's recommendation to approve the revised short-term disability benefit as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Anything else on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. 10H, approve Finance and Personnel's recommendation of a pay increase of $1 per hour for Administrative Assistant Sherry Erickson wages. Since this meeting, I have heard a little bit of complaining,
Okay.
basically
Well,
from every other employee in the village. If
okay.
she gets one, why don't I get one?
Well, I guess that if they all want to go down to the $15.24 she's getting an hour, then maybe they would be entitled to, but.
That's got nothing to
That
do with
has
it.
nothing to do with it.
No, I know, I understand that. This was not brought to the board by the village, by Sherry at all, and I want to make sure that that is clear. This was Julie and I. This came to our attention because my attention primarily because I started helping my daughter look for a job and I saw what jobs were available and what they were hiring at. And frankly, what we are paying her is way below what she can get a job anywhere else right now. So if the board wants to, I mean, you guys make your own decision, but I'll tell you, we risk losing a really good employee because we aren't paying her market wages right now. She's been here a long time, wages have gone up every year, but they have not kept in tune with the type of job that she is doing. Now, would I love a wage increase also? Of course I would, but it's my job as a supervisor to, you know, retain.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we budget 40 hours for her week, right, but she uses roughly 32 on a
Correct.
regular basis.
Correct.
So there's no issue with the money, that's
Correct, there is
well,
no,
it's well there.
and it comes to about $1,200 a year, what we're talking about.
So we budget for 40, but she works, why do we over budget for her?
We have always budgeted for 40 because if we ever need more hours than what we have her, we have to budget for it. That's how they've always done it.
I was at that committee meeting, she is underpaid.
I just have a question.
I guess that, but how do we know that DPW is not underpaid? I mean, I think we need, if we're gonna look at it, we need to look at all the employees across the board and see, is Fredonia paying more for DPW? Like, where are we at with all our salaries?
Well, I will point out.
I'm in a
by the way-
supervisory position at work now, and if I give one person a raise, holy hell, I'm not walking back in that office without dodging bullets. So I think we need to look at every salary across our board and see how underpaid they all are.
I don't disagree with that. And by the way, recently the Towns Association did a survey in which I participated, and I can send you guys the results of that study. And it is broken down by type of municipality, size of municipality. It shows wage comparisons and everything.
We belong to this organization called Wisconsin Road Water Works Association, and each year they give a spreadsheet, and I was trying to look for it today on mine to print one off for you guys. So you know what public works directors get, wastewater superintendent gets, water superintendents, DPW employees, you know that's all broken down, high, medium, and low. And it tells you the size of the community, it goes by population. So I can get that copy of that, and then I'll I'll forward that to you guys.
I don't disagree. If you guys feel that you want to look at all the wages, that's fine. I just simply want to make you guys aware, this was my point in bringing it to the committee, that right now Sherry is barely earning over $15 an hour, and right now the Random Lake is hiring for the exact same position as Sherry works here, the Village of Random Lake, and they are starting at $16 an hour.
I have a question. When does everybody, like the DPW or anybody else, like, is there a certain time frame? Like, do they get a review every year and then decide on
Every year.
raise? Is that
They
it?
get
Yeah,
2%.
And that's when their raises were figured out.
Every year, everybody got a 2% raise.
Okay, so the DPW, like, everybody that's complaining already got their raise.
Yeah, but so
2%.
share, include share.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Every employee that we have Julie, Vicky, Sherry, Danny, Paul,
Pat,
Pat,
Brian,
Pat, Brian, and now Mike. We all got a 2%.
Okay,
Well, Mike didn't get one, but he wasn't an employee yet. But otherwise, for the last, as long as I've been on this board, I think since 14, every year was a 2% raise, one year was a 3%.
Okay.
So,
But as underpaid as she is though, according to those numbers, I mean, she could walk, like you said, take a job at Random Lake for more money. And then we're stuck in the same kind of position Filoni had where they lost a good clerk.
Exactly,
And they
we
are-
may not be able to hire
Right.
anybody.
or
Yeah.
less than $16, so we're
Yeah.
gonna have to raise the
The
price
experience
anyway.
that comes with that, it's like, that's a Filoni, they are having some issues over there. Not that they don't have good people, they're just.
but they lost their clerk.
She left because she was underpaid, she brought it to the
Right.
board, and they pretty much washed their hands of it.
I just have a hard time without looking at everybody's merit, why they all
That's not saying
deserve
that can't
one.
be done, but we could still.
I think we can still approve her dollar raise and still then make a point to look at everybody. Like, let's not
I
wait
say
and
we
look at
wait and
everybody,
look at everybody.
and then she quits.
we also have an issue
So then what?
if we do this $1 an hour, what about Pat and Brian?
Then we'll
I mean-
start looking at it though, but
Well-
like, why can't we start looking at it after today? And bring it up in the next board meeting and then we'll
What
be like,
happens if one
okay,
of them quits? How do we replace them?
I don't think that they're making $15 an hour, and I
But
don't,
maybe
and I
they could go
understand
somewhere
that.
else and make more. Then all of a sudden, a third of our streets
Well,
don't get plowed
I think
because we are
anybody,
short
I think
flower.
anybody
Literally,
that's
it's
employed
$1.
by the
She's
village
making
could go somewhere
$15 an
else and
hour.
make more money. But I think we have a lot of dedicated people that are willing to stay. And I think we should give her this $1 an hour and then start looking at everybody else. I don't see a problem with giving her $1 an hour. I was a supervisor and I didn't give everybody a raise. I gave the people that deserved the raise a raise, and whoever
Deserved is a big
didn't.
word, so why don't the rest of them deserve a raise, Don?
What?
Why don't the rest of them deserve a raise? Why
I'm
doesn't-
not saying that they don't deserve
So,
a raise.
but I
What
think that's how it's gonna look to our other staff, is that we don't deserve a raise?
I don't believe that, because
Well, I would beg to
we're gonna be, we'll look at them after.
Oh.
Are you
Why should
willing to
why
lose
should she
her?
have to wait 6 months till we're all done looking at everyone before she gets a raise?
Because they just
She
got
was, she
one.
wasn't complaining about her pay, really.
Well,
You know, I don't know. But now that these guys know that she's up for the $1, they're saying, what about us?
okay, so let's start looking at
That
it.
can be revisited.
You guys maybe don't even care what I think, but I'm frankly a little bit shocked that any employee, including myself, would begrudge somebody who's earning so much less than me to get a basic cost of living increase based on what jobs are available out there. And maybe that's just me, but you know, I can tell you guys that based on the wage study that we had out recently, that of all the treasurers in the state of Wisconsin that replied to that job, you know who's the lowest paid treasurer in the state of Wisconsin?
You.
And does that bother me, or do I think that I shouldn't give Sherry a raise because I maybe am paid less than what? No, because this doesn't have to do with me and my wages. I can advocate for myself to the board.
I agree.
I'm frankly shocked, but you know.
I also think some of the wording that you use, gotta be careful with, because if you say cost of living increase, that is across the board.
Correct, you're correct. As soon as I said it, you're right. It isn't a cost of living, it's a.
What we call it is a market adjustment.
It's a, yes, that's exactly the.
It wasn't
correct
cost of
term.
living, what, 5.9%?
Oh, nobody got 5.9% in any place.
So what was the cost of living? It just came through. We just had to do it at where I work.
There's difference between cost of living and what
Right.
your company actually gives you. Because I'll be honest with you, in my large company that has 70,000 employees across the company, we got 1.5% as our increase this year. So when you're looking at 2%, feel good about that, because there are other places that aren't getting that.
Right.
I think this is something that's good. Obviously, we've got some discord and disagreement, but I'm gonna make a motion to approve finance personnel recommendation, the pay increase of $1 per hour for administrative assistant Sherry Erickson's wages.
I'll second it. Thank you.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we'll go on to 10I. Approve Public Safety Committee recommendation for number of DOT clearinghouse queries completed annually for CDL drivers.
This is just a bookkeeping thing. This is a new requirement that, so we contract with this clearinghouse, Department of Transportation Clearinghouse through Zellen Health, and that's where the alcohol drug testing is randomly done. And in addition to that, I am required to do this query or search through the DOT to see if any of our CDL drivers have any violations. It's a minimum of one, and but you can do as many as you want. There's a minimal fee to it, but I just wanted to get board approval as to where you're okay with doing the one. I don't see a problem with just doing the 1 year. I don't have concerns.
And speaking as the chair of the Public Safety Committee meeting, our thinking on just doing the minimum required by law is that we have vetted our employees pretty strongly, and we don't see any reason to do it more than the minimum under law. So that was our thinking on it.
This is a totally new system.
This is an additional step that was required like a year ago.
So it's just how many, just once a year they can get called for a drug and alcohol test?
This is separate from that.
Yeah, we belong to the story about a Green Bay where somebody gets picked a quarter. I mean, there's probably 10,000 CDL drivers in there, so, if we get, I know Paul, Pat, and Brian went probably a couple of times last year. I got picked maybe once or twice. It's the luck of the
And
draw.
this is just in addition to, it's another step.
Right, it's basically we call for the search of the records as opposed to them just being randomly chosen, so.
And we only need to do it once.
That's the minimum.
That's
Right.
the minimum, right, okay.
And our other thinking was Julie doesn't have time to doing this multiple times a year.
No,
Okay, well, I guess I'll move to approve Public Safety Committee's recommendation for number of DOT clearinghouse queries completed annually for CDL drivers.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.